Hello, friend. Welcome to this week's episode of the Remarkable People podcast, the Stephen Rados story. This week, we're going to talk about Stephen's journey from a troubled childhood to becoming a professional boxer, a father, and how he learned he loved coaching and training even more than boxing himself. He talks about personal discipline, how we can all be steadfast and grow, the importance of growth, and training for life. You don't have to be a fight enthusiast to see the value of this episode, not just in Stephen's exciting story, but how it can apply to your and my life too. So stay tuned for the Stephen Rados story.
The Remarkable People podcast. Check it out. The Remarkable People podcast. Listen, do, repeat for life. The Remarkable People podcast.
Hey, Stephen, how are you today?
Good, yourself?
Man, I'm fantastic. So I just told our listeners a little bit about you, but right out of your mouth, if listeners around the world hang with your episode, what can they 100% expect that they can take from your life, apply to theirs, and grow with?
Basically, how to get better no matter what situation you're in, no matter what level you're at, a way to better yourself today.
Awesome. We all need that, right? Always sharpening ourselves and each other and growing. So, ladies and
That's
gentlemen,
it.
yeah, we're going to take a quick 90-second affiliate commercial. You're going to get a special offer, and then we're going to come back with our remarkable friend, Stephen. You're going to hear his story, and you're going to hear how to grow in your life and be even better tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be real personal with you. I've been struggling getting out of bed lately, but I haven't been struggling with depression. We've solved that and been moving forward, and it's been fantastic. What's keeping me in bed are the MyPillow flannel sheets. I am not just saying it, but these sheets are so comfortable and so soft that they make you not want to get out of bed. You sleep better at night. You look forward to going to bed early, and you wake up refreshed. But again, it makes you want to stay. So these are 5-star sheets. They're worth every penny at full retail, but they're flannel sheets with promo code Remarkable. You get 30 to 80% off plus free shipping right now when you go to mypillow.com/remarkable. These sheets are not hot. They're warm and cozy, but they're not hot. So I plan on using these bad boys year round and getting myself a second set. So go to mypillow.com, get yourself the best flannel sheets you've probably ever owned. If not, let me know. And then enjoy promo code Remarkable for 30 to 80% off your entire order plus free shipping. Now let's get back to a great episode. All right, Stephen, so let's do this. Your story, you are passionate about growing and getting to the next level and becoming a little bit better each day. How did that happen, right? Everything that happened in your life, my life, our listeners' lives makes us the people we are. But where did your life start? And we'll walk through to today.
So I was born in Sydney, Australia, in Auburn, which is, I guess you could call it like, a bit of a rough area. When I was in primary school, my school got shot at during a Christmas concert. So it's like not super safe, but it also wasn't like super bad. Like it wasn't like a regular occurrence. So that's a bit about where I kind of grew up, and my parents were, I would say, on and off together. Kind of, dad was in and out of the house. Same thing with mum. I have four sisters and one brother. My older sister basically raised us. And then from there, I ended up going through high school. I eventually got into boxing at about 15, 16. I moved in with some friends at around that time. I was in between living with my dad, living with my friend, and then at around, I would say year 11, I started moving with my sister. I got more into boxing, but also started hanging out with the wrong kind of people and getting a bit more in trouble, stuff like that, a bit more in trouble with the police and stuff. Fast forward a few years, I spent about 8 months in jail, and then kind of got out, got my first kind of full-time job. Apart from that, started to get my life a little bit back on track. Still had a few court things I was dealing with. And then eventually I basically realized I'm like I need to live a little bit of a better life here. So I turned professional. I also had a daughter, turned professional boxing, and then had a daughter that was in 2018. And still I didn't really have a like proper direction yet. I was still a bit like in limbo with what I was doing in my life. I also started coaching around that time that I turned professional in boxing. Everyone was just kind of asking about it, stuff like that. And I feel like I had enough life experience and also I was good enough as a boxer to teach people about, boxing and just how to better themselves in different areas. And then I'd say about 2 years ago, I just really got serious about what I wanted to do with my life and where I wanted to go and really started to, yeah, focus on my future, the person I wanted to become, and yeah basically started really focusing on the skills that I needed to live a much better life.
And while all this is going on, we just blew past your life story. There's things that happen to us. Like you said, you spent some time in jail. And then you said how
Yep.
your mom and dad was around, but your sister kind of raised you. When you're boxing, it seems like some of the best boxers coming out of the hardest backgrounds. And that's just consistently through time, every country, every era, right? It's like the
Yeah,
fighters,
it
the
just seems to be
gladiators.
like that.
Yeah, it's because they go through struggle and they're growing and don't quit. So when you're looking back, before we go further into your story to today, what were some of the lessons that you can look back that like, good and bad? My sister raised us and that taught me, maybe whatever it taught you, right? Family structure. But then at the same
Yeah.
time, the absence of your mom and dad might have hurt your relationships in the future. So what was kind of dragging through that was pulling you down, keeping you in that troubled state where you went to jail?
I think it was just the fact that the people that I started hanging out with, because they didn't have a solid family structure, they felt really close. Like, you just clicked and you just kind of they become essentially almost like your family. So then it's just like, oh, cool. This is like my first, although my sisters were amazing, you know what I mean? Like I have a brother till he was 10 years younger than me, and then he went and lived with my mum and that in another state. So there was no real relationship there. So they would kind of become like my brothers. And then, you know what I mean? Just, by them getting in trouble, you get in trouble.
Yeah, yeah. And then if you don't mind me asking, you can talk as much or little. What kind of trouble did you get into that sent you to
So I
jail?
got charged with possession of firearms, drugs, stuff like that.
Okay. And then now when you're doing it, were you like, I'm wrong? Or were you like, I'm
No,
the innocent? Like, what was your attitude at that point?
it's just like just what we do. It's just normal life. It's just the life that you live. You just normalize by it because that's what every day is. It's not a big deal. Like you kind of know it's wrong, but at the same time, this is just the life that I'm living currently.
Yeah. All right. So bring us through there. Now you have a daughter. Are you still boxing at this point? Are you focused on training and coaching? Where are you at in life around 2018?
So around then, I started boxing. I turned professional, and my daughter was born in Canada. So I turned professional, and about 3 days later, I flew over to Canada for my daughter's birth.
Oh, nice. Okay. And then
Yeah.
are you in Canada now? Are you in Australia?
So now I'm in Australia, and my daughter also lives here in Australia, and her mum lives here in Australia, and we share custody.
Okay. Okay. And then so you're in 2018, you become pro. Take us through are you still boxing actively? Did you focus on coaching and growth? Where are you at now?
So 2018, I'm still focused on boxing actively, and then I'm coaching as well, but boxing is my main kind of focus. I really want to give it a crack at professional. And then I think I just kind of, yeah, didn't lose passion for it, but I just had other things going on, other focuses. So I would still box, and I had 6 more fights after that as a pro. One was only last year, but it was, yeah, mainly started to turn more into coaching. I really started to enjoy the process because I realized the feeling that I get when I'm in the ring and the feeling of how I get better, I can give that to so many other people like every day. When I want to fight, like, you know what I mean? You wait months and months until you fight. Whereas, like, I could give this feeling to everybody. I can make their life better today.
Yeah. And then going into boxing, I know there's different organizations within each country, and then there's global
Yeah.
organizations. So when you were boxing professionally, what fight card were you on?
So here we just work same thing with kind of different promoters and stuff like that. And then you're all fall under the same like global rankings. And then you can, yeah, in that, obviously we have like Australian things and stuff like that that you guys wouldn't have. You guys have American things. But yeah, it's all basically the same international thing that we all fall under.
Okay. And then would you say, is it because in America for a while, like boxing got ruined by Don King and his crew, where, I mean, unless you were on the take, you weren't getting a good fight. Were you,
Yeah.
is it a place today where you can legitimately just fight your way to the top, or is it still political?
It's yeah, it's still political. Like you can do it, like if you're just that undeniably great, like you know what I mean. But it's still, yeah, still very political. I think it always kind of will be.
Okay. So bring us through. So now you're coaching. Where are we at on the timeline? And then bring us through to today.
So coaching kind of became my main focus, and then, like I said, I just really realized that like I was still kind of like making an impact on people in life, and I was still doing good things in my life, but I wasn't really serious about anything, I would say. Like it was no like a real like 100% focused on fighting, 100% focused on coaching. It was kind of like I was doing both. I was still going out with friends, partying, stuff like that. I was still living a relatively like I guess you could call a normal life, what most people do. Work, I worked hard, but I also went out, stuff like that. And I realized I was like, I'm just actually not solely focused on anything. And like, if I want to be successful, it's not going to happen by accident and it's not going to happen by living the life that I'm currently living. So then I really decided to really just switch my life into like an actual gear and get focused on what I wanted, focused more about my future, the person I needed to be to attain the things I wanted. And then, yeah, I really focused on coaching a lot and my own personal growth.
And how did you do that? Because going from the quote unquote normal life, if it's easy, everybody does it. But to have the
Yeah.
discipline and the focus and to maintain that focus, what were some of the things that you implement in your life, Stephen, that our listeners can too, to help them not only get the focus, but then to stay the course?
So what I did, I started training. Like training had always been a big thing in my life. And then someone offered me a training program and diet program, and I was like, I don't really need that, to be honest. I was like, I train. I was like, I can diet. I was like, this is not. And then I was also joining this mindset thing. So I started focusing more on like my mind rather than everything that I do with my body because I was like, I already can do that. So I started reading a lot more and just focusing more on, I would say, the future things that I wanted, the outcome of the situation, the outcome of the life that I wanted to live, and the skills that I needed rather than just the discipline of showing up. I needed skills in other areas of my life, like staying focused, focusing on my future, putting good things out there into the world, putting good things out there into my body.
Okay. And then when all this is happening, I'm sure everything takes a choice and everything takes a level of sacrifice. So instead of going out with your friends, you're making different decisions. What were some of the change decisions you made to alter the course of your life?
So I stopped drinking, I wasn't taking drugs, and I was really the only things that I was doing was things that were benefiting my future. So I was spending time with like either very close friends and family, or I was working. I was working, I was reading, I was doing things like I was training, and I was like focused on my food. Like I said, everything basically that was good for me. Now, dieting and everything like that does not sound that important, nor does it. Honestly, I don't make my own food or anything like that, and I know a lot of people hate it. But the real thing that I focused on was solid training, family, friends, and then future skills that I needed. So if there was something that I wanted to teach my clients or I thought they would benefit from, I made sure that I did it first before I was telling them about it. Like, okay, I really think you guys should read. You should stop getting mad at the little things in life. So I had to stop doing all those little like triggering things that can set off your mood throughout the day.
What were some of those things?
So for example, like when you have an argument with someone in traffic, like so many people do that all the time. I'm driving a lot, so there's always people that are gonna piss you off. And then I'm like, I realized I'm like, I need to stop wasting so much energy on this because it sets off my moods. I will notice clients are coming in, they're like, oh, I just had an argument with this person. I'm like, why? And then I'm like, you can't let someone that you don't, I was like, you don't even know their name. I bet you don't remember what car they drive. Like, you're letting them set off your mood throughout the day. They're changing the tempo of your day. Why are you giving someone that power? So it's basically just taking back power over your own life and realizing you're in control of so many more things than you think if only you just stay focused.
So it's more of a mindset switch. So if you have like it's through real practical steps, you get cut off in traffic, some guy cusses you out, flips you the bird, and you're instantly, how do you bring yourself down back to a good mindset?
Okay, here's the thing, it's not that big of a deal. And honestly, something I've realized is they're really not trying to mess up your day. They're probably just trying to get to where they're going in a rush. Like, I guarantee they're not trying to fuck with you. They're not trying to ruin your day. They're just probably in a rush to get to where they're going. It's never really about you. They're just doing whatever they're going to do. They may be in a rush. They may be on their way to the hospital. I don't know. And I don't really care. Until they get out of their car and come up to mine, it's not a big deal for me.
So you kind of rationalize what's happening and just put it in perspective. Is that correct?
Yep, 100%. I don't know their story. I don't know why they're in a rush. And to be honest, it doesn't bother me. I'm not in that big of a rush and I'll get to where I'm going regardless.
All right. So now you're changing your mindset, you're feeding your brain, you're feeding your body, you're learning. Now, are you actively still boxing or are you just coaching at this point?
I still boxing, but I'm not actively fighting. So I still train every single day.
Gotcha. Now, it's interesting because usually the best coaches aren't the best fighters. And,
Yeah.
because it's a different mindset. So you were kind of fighting and you're doing well. And now you're bridging yourself into the coaching realm. Was that a hard switch for you or did it come pretty naturally?
I think it come pretty naturally. Honestly, my passion for coaching kind of really got overtaken by my passion for fighting. So yeah, like I really wanted to be a good fighter and passionate about that, and that was my main focus. And then coaching just kind of, yeah, really took over. I just fell in love with like the process of making other people better and realized I was actually like really good at it.
Awesome. So now you're coaching, you're helping yourself grow, you're helping others grow. Bring us from there to today, Stephen.
So to today, I am looking at opening my own gym now. I am pretty busy with clients. I make good money. I have a positive impact on all the people I'm around, and I'm also writing a book. So there are a few things that I'm up to today.
All right. What's the book on? What kind of book are you writing?
So I'm writing a book. It's basically 12 lessons that I think people should know for life from my perspective.
Okay. And I don't want to ruin the whole book, but what some of the lessons that you're
So it's
teaching?
basically 12 chapters, and we've got if you can think your way into a bad situation, you can think your way into a good one. You're literally in control. Not everyone will clap for you. Believe in you. You can lose so much time being unfocused. Learn to think all the way ahead. It's your fault. Competition should bring out the best in you. Take your own advice. Make friends. Balance is bullshit. You're never too busy. And trauma will be useful.
That's awesome. I mean, those are right there. So those are the 12 chapters to expect. Awesome. Now, when do you expect that book out? Like, sometimes books take
Uh,
3 years, sometimes they take 3 months. What are you looking at for timeline?
I've basically finished the first draft of it. I've got a little bit more editing to do, and then I'm hoping by mid-year I can get that out.
Awesome. So what I'll do is, ladies and gentlemen, when Steven's books launch, we'll add that to the show notes. You can just click and go and get it. All right. So now today we're here. It is February 2025. We might have listeners having it when it's released back probably in March, or we might have people listening to it 2 years from now. Between your birth and today, is there any lessons or areas of your life that you want to talk about before we transition to how people can reach you and what's coming on in the future?
Yeah, I would say the best thing that I've adopted throughout those years is realizing that something that I wrote in my book is that everything is your own fault. That's something that I would take, honestly, is one of the best outlooks that I've taken on my life. Is although things may not be completely you're not always to blame. But if you adopt the thinking that everything is your own fault, you have the power over the outcome of the next situation rather than blaming someone else for how you are and then waiting for them to fix it. You could realize that, okay, you weren't smart enough to see that person for what they were. You weren't old enough to see that situation, and now you can change that because you are. So you always have outcome over the next situation now because you're better and you've been through what you've been through.
Yeah, that's very true. 100% true. So if someone was like gonna reach you, what's the best way to reach you, Steven?
Instagram is just Steven, Steven, and then Rados, Rados.
Okay. Now, do you do coaching and training virtually, or is it hands-on only in
Yeah,
Australia?
no, I do both. I do online and I do in person. I realize my online person basically just push my in person way more because everyone that can get to me is like, I'd rather just come in person, but I do both.
Yeah, I mean, but we have listeners all over the world, so they're not all in Australia, and that's probably one of our top five countries. But people in the U.S., people in Indonesia,
100%. I do it online as well. It's the same thing.
yeah. And how long does a session last?
Depends. I have different programs for different people. But yeah, you normally a month, 3 months, a year.
Okay. And then do you have a website for them to check out some literature, or do you have just get a hold of you via?
I just basically use Instagram and then I'm building a website currently, but that's going to be for the gym.
Okay, awesome, my friend. So, we talked about at the beginning people learning to get better and to sharpen themselves. And just the chapter titles of your book, we can infer a lot of what we need to do. But is there any
Yeah.
other wisdom that you're like, if I could go back and tell myself this at 15, or I'm teaching my daughter this today, what are these important life lessons, like two or three of them, that we can impart to the audience so they can be a better person starting today?
It's funny because I know that like whatever I told myself at that age, I wouldn't listen. But something that I would say is learn to focus more on the future. Don't do anything too stupid that it's going to affect you for years to come. Because you may do something now that's just, part of the life that you're living or whatever it is, but those things can stay with you forever. For example, my criminal record will stay with me forever. And it may not be a big deal to a lot of people. I definitely didn't think it was. But I also didn't think, hey, I might want to travel. Hey, I might want to apply for this job. I might want to do this. Like, yes, these things can also help you, like, now have a lot of life experience, but I'm sure there was other ways to get that life experience that I just didn't do.
Yeah, I tell my kids growing up, I said, you are going to learn your lesson no matter what. You're going to learn it the easy way, you're going to learn it the hard way, but you will learn. And
Yeah.
then you have like what you're saying, God loves us all and he forgives us for anything we've done when we ask him to. But there's still consequences to our decisions. And we got to face,
100%.
yeah, we got to
And they can
face,
last.
yeah, yeah. And
Another
that's,
thing I would say is learn to fight or do some sort of martial arts or be fit. Stay active in some area. Build some real confidence through that. Not for the simple fact to be violent, but to look after those that you're around. And you'll be able to take care of certain situations in life. I think we need people that are more confident and are willing to look after those who aren't capable of looking after themselves.
I agree. Now, I'm kind of biased. I grew up in America, we had wrestling. There wasn't MMA back then, right? But now you have jujitsu and so many different
Yeah.
disciplines. But for a 45-year-old guy like me, or even lady, or a 60-year-old, what are the disciplines that you think are good? Because, like, to me, I'm super biased. I love jujitsu. So I think it's great for your mind and your body at any age. But what are the ones you're seeing, Stephen, that can really help benefit people?
Personally, I like boxing because it's just the simplest form of what you're gonna do. It's basically if you're ever gonna get into a fight, someone's gonna throw punches. So I would say learn how to do those. I wouldn't say go out fighting. I think once you learn to fight, you want to fight way less than everybody else. But I also think that's why you should learn because the more people that know how to fight, the less people that want to fight.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I agree with that. And if anybody hasn't actually been punched in the face, they're going to lose their game plan when they take their first paw,
Oh,
right?
100%. Yeah, that's it. I'm like, Don't worry, because I've got asked this before. They're like, oh, like I'm scared of like confrontation. I go, don't worry. Most people do not want to fight. I go, and those that do have never been hit. So once you hit them, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, and I think
Often,
I've heard so many stats, but normally in real life, not the movies, the first person that gets in the face loses 90% of the time.
yeah, because they have never been hit before.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
and
why I
ladies and
love boxing.
yeah, and I
I see
think
people fight, and it's like their fight or flight response kicks in their first sparring session, and you see them like have all this like fake confidence beforehand, or they're like real quiet beforehand, and they go out and they do their thing.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
no hiding.
And I think, Stephen, you speak for yourself. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think we're both on the same page where we're not advocating violence, but we're advocating
No,
preparation and we're advocating
100%.
defending and standing our ground. And that's not toxic. That's not,
No,
a misogynist. That's being a man to take care
that's
of
it.
mankind.
100%, because there are bad people in the world, no matter what way you want to look at it, and there are people that we need to look after. There are older, more fragile males. There are also women that also need to be looked after. And again, that's just me having four sisters, and I hope that if I'm not around one day and something goes down, some other guy who knows how to fight is there to look after my sisters. That's just yeah,
Yeah, 100%. And when people tell you otherwise, they're the liars trying to take control. So, I mean,
yep,
I
I
agree with you
agree.
completely. So, all right, Stephen, man, it's been a great time hanging out with you. Is there anything past, present, or future that you want to cover before we wrap this up, or any closing thoughts for our audience?
I think that's basically it. Just yeah, again, focus on the future that you want, the life you want to live, and then adopt those skills needed.
Excellent. So, ladies and gentlemen, take the information that Stephen's shared with you, think about it, pray about it, but more than anything, do it. Like our slogan says, listen, do, repeat for life. Listen to what he's sharing. Do the good. Repeat it each day, those habits he talked about. And you'll have a great life in this world, but most importantly, an eternity to come. So, Stephen, thank you again for being here, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we love you. We'll see you in the next episode. Ciao.
The Remarkable People Podcast. Check it out. The Remarkable People Podcast. Listen, do, repeat for life. The Remarkable People Podcast.